Ancient healers began every morning with oil in their mouths. Not to eat it, not as a flavoring, they swished it slowly, deliberately, for 10 to 20 minutes every morning before any food, any water, or any other activity had touched their lips. This practice is called oil pulling, and it is one of the oldest and most consistently prescribed oral health practices in the entire history of human medicine. Ancient Ayurvedic medicine documented it as kavala and gandusha, two variations of the same practice, prescribed in the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, the oldest comprehensive medical texts in human history, dating back over 3,000 years. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians prescribed oil pulling for dental decay, gum disease, bad breath, jaw stiffness, headaches, throat dryness, and as a general purification of the oral cavity and the upper digestive tract. Ancient Egyptian physicians used oil preparations for oral care. Ancient Greek and Roman physicians prescribed oil gargles and oral rinses for mouth and throat health. And across traditional African and Asian medicine, some form of oil-based oral care appears as a standard morning health practice. Modern science has now investigated exactly why ancient healers prescribed this practice with such consistency. The findings are more significant than most people expect. The first thing oil pulling does, it removes harmful bacteria from the mouth with mechanical precision. The human mouth contains over 700 species of bacteria. Most are harmless or beneficial, part of the oral microbiome that maintains a healthy environment. But a subset of these bacteria are harmful, specifically Streptococcus mutans, the primary bacterium responsible for dental cavities, and Porphyromonas gingivalis, the primary bacterium responsible for gum disease and periodontal destruction. These bacteria are encased in a lipid, a fat-based cell membrane. When oil is swished through the mouth, the bacterial cell membranes are attracted to the oil through a process of like dissolving like, the same principle that makes soap effective at removing grease. The bacteria bind to the oil, are suspended within it, and are expelled when the oil is spat out. Clinical studies have confirmed this mechanism. A study published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine found that sesame oil pulling significantly reduced Streptococcus mutans counts in saliva after just 2 weeks of daily practice. Another study found that oil pulling with coconut oil reduced total bacterial count in the mouth by 44% after 40 days. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians observed the visible result of this process, the oil turning white and milky during pulling, which indicates emulsification of bacteria and debris, and called it the drawing out of impurities. They were observing bacterial emulsification without the vocabulary to describe it in modern terms. The second thing oil pulling does, it reduces gum inflammation and prevents gum disease. Gum disease, periodontitis, is now understood to be one of the most significant drivers of systemic inflammation in the body. The bacteria that cause gum disease, particularly Porphyromonas gingivalis, do not stay in the mouth. They enter the bloodstream through inflamed gum tissue and have been found in the arteries of patients with cardiovascular disease, in the brain tissue of patients with Alzheimer's disease, and in the joints of patients with rheumatoid arthritis. Ancient healers did not know about Porphyromonas gingivalis or its systemic effects, but they consistently prescribed oil pulling for patients with conditions far beyond the mouth, for joint pain, for mental clarity, for cardiovascular health, observing empirically that the state of the oral cavity affected the health of the entire body. Modern research has confirmed the oral systemic connection they were observing. A study in the Nigerian Medical Journal found that oil pulling reduced gingival index scores the clinical measure of gum inflammation, as effectively as chlorhexidine mouthwash, the pharmaceutical gold standard for gum disease treatment after 30 days of daily use. The third thing oil pulling does, it eliminates bad breath at its source. Halitosis, chronic bad breath, is caused primarily by volatile sulfur compounds produced by bacteria breaking down proteins in the mouth. The bacteria responsible are largely the same ones that cause gum disease and cavities. Removing these bacteria through oil pulling removes the source of the odor rather than masking it. A clinical trial published in the Journal of the Indian Society of Pedodontics and Preventive Dentistry found that oil pulling was as effective as chlorhexidine mouthwash in reducing the organisms responsible for bad breath, with the significant advantage that it does not disrupt the beneficial bacteria of the oral microbiome the way antiseptic mouthwash does. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians listed the elimination of bad breath as one of the primary clinical outcomes of consistent oil pulling practice, observing that patients who maintained the practice showed a persistent freshness of breath that chemical preparations could not replicate. They understood empirically that they were removing the source rather than covering it. The fourth thing oil pulling does, it may strengthen the teeth and remineralize enamel. This is the most debated aspect of oil pulling, but the mechanism is logical and the emerging evidence is suggestive. By reducing the bacterial load in the mouth, oil pulling reduces the production of the organic acids that erode tooth enamel. Streptococcus mutans produces lactic acid as a byproduct of metabolizing sugar. This acid demineralizes tooth enamel and initiates cavity formation. Reducing Streptococcus mutans reduces acid production, giving enamel the opportunity to remineralize from saliva in the intervals between acid attacks. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians specifically prescribed oil pulling for patients with weak or decaying teeth, observing that consistent practice produced visible improvement in tooth strength and surface quality over months of use. They called this process the hardening of the teeth. Their clinical observation of what modern dentistry would recognize as enamel remineralization supported by bacterial reduction. The fifth thing oil pulling does, it may reduce headaches and improve overall well-being. This is the benefit that ancient healers prescribed oil pulling for most consistently, and the one that modern research has been slowest to investigate. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians listed oil pulling as a treatment for headaches, migraine, jaw stiffness, and a general feeling of being unwell in the mornings, symptoms that they attributed to the accumulation of ama in the oral cavity and the upper digestive tract overnight. The mechanism may involve the reduction of systemic inflammatory load, removing the oral bacteria that enter the bloodstream and drive inflammation throughout the body, including neuroinflammation. It may also involve direct effects on the oral-brain connection through the trigeminal nerve, the largest cranial nerve which originates in the jaw and face. The sustained mechanical stimulation of oil pulling may activate parasympathetic responses through this nerve, explaining the calm, clear quality that practitioners consistently report feeling after the practice. Whatever the mechanism, the observation that ancient healers made across thousands of years of practice, that oil pulling in the morning produced a quality of well-being that extended far beyond the mouth, has been consistently reported by modern practitioners who adopt the practice consistently. How to do it correctly. First thing in the morning, before eating, drinking, or brushing teeth. Take 1 tablespoon of cold-pressed sesame oil or virgin coconut oil. Sesame oil was the traditional Ayurvedic prescription. Coconut oil has been the most studied in modern clinical trials. Both produce significant results. Swish the oil gently through the teeth and around the gums. Do Do not gargle, do not swallow. The swishing action is the mechanism. The oil must move through the spaces between the teeth to contact and emulsify the bacteria. Swish for 10 to 20 minutes. Ancient Ayurvedic texts prescribed 20 minutes. Modern research suggests significant bacterial reduction occurs from 10 minutes onwards. When finished, spit the oil into a bin, never into the sink. The oil is now loaded with bacteria and debris. It will solidify in pipes if cold and cause blockages. After spitting, rinse the mouth with warm water and then brush the teeth normally. The oil will turn white and milky during the process. This is correct. It indicates emulsification is occurring. If the oil remains clear, the swishing is not vigorous enough. Every morning, without exception, ancient Ayurvedic physicians prescribed this as a daily practice, not a weekly supplement or an occasional remedy. The bacterial reduction is cumulative over weeks and months. The gum inflammation reduction is measurable at 30 days. The breath improvement is often noticeable within the first week. The mouth is the gateway to the body. Ancient healers understood this more clearly than any other medical tradition. They understood that what lived in the mouth, the bacteria, the inflammation, the infection, did not stay in the mouth. They cleaned it every morning before anything else. If this found you at the right moment, share it with one person whose oral health you want to protect. They may not know that the ancient morning practice has been waiting for them. Subscribe to Ancient Body Wisdom and come back every single week. There is so much more the healers knew, and we are only just beginning.